thought I'd give you a little tour today as I go about my work from my golf cart. My debris piles have become a debris row as I keep adding to them. A lot of this right here was from the limb that fell the other day in that big tree, but not all of it. A lot on this end is from my crepe myrtles that I'm trimming along the road. I'll show you that in a minute. But yes, I could cut some of this up for firewood. There's some good pieces down there. And I could get my son to help me with the chainsaw and do that. And I will. It's just not a priority right at this moment. I have to have somewhere to put all this stuff as I'm cleaning. And I'm just having to pile it up. And we can't burn it because we're still under a burn ban because we've had no rain. I feel like a broken record saying that, but we haven't. I've got my sprinkler going right there because I planted, I planted some okra that's not coming up that great. But then around it, I think I came in and planted some English peas. I'm kind of getting to where I'm just sticking seeds in wherever and doing whatever. Right now, if something doesn't appear to be coming up, I'm coming back with some other seeds. And I've got to get something growing. And since this is a little shady, I think I did come around here and put some Wando English peas around this last end. Now my Blue Lake pole beans, they're doing okay. They're starting to take off and climb over there. So they're doing good. Maybe I'll get some beans out of those. I have not yet tilled my corn patch. I started to do it a couple of days ago, but I shifted my list and I haven't done it yet. It's okay. Some of those things like mustard greens and collards, you're just really not supposed to kind of grow till the weather gets cold. And y'all, it's not cold. We're burning up here. We are burning up here in Louisiana. I keep seeing all my friends on YouTube that live in North Carolina, Northern Alabama, Tennessee, places like that. And they're talking about their 55-degree weather. And they're putting on sweatshirts to go out and work in the morning. And that's just like y'all live on another planet. I can't even relate to it at all. I'm happy for you, but I can't relate to it at all. This is where that big limb fell the other day, and as you can see, my son got it cut off the fence. He actually ended up being off work Friday and walked out here Friday morning and cut it off the fence for me. When I came out yesterday, I just realized that while a lot of my grass is still brown, a lot of it had started growing. It was like patchy, sickly looking. You see how it is along that highway there? My yard was kind of looking like that. My ditch was looking like that. I just couldn't really take it anymore. Oh, look at there, somebody threw out some trash. So I decided to come out here and clean up. And one of the things that had not quit growing was a big pile of weeds around this culvert here, around all my culverts. And they had grown 3 feet high. These certain grassy weeds were just growing like crazy. You really couldn't even weed eat it because they had such thick bases. So I brought my push mower out here yesterday morning and started cleaning that up. And once I started cleaning that up, it led to me wanting to clean this whole ditch up, which led to me wanting to mow the whole yard. So that's what I'm working on now. I did the same thing to that culvert and got it cleaned up. And then I started mowing. Feels so good to have all these ditches mowed. And then I got my whole front yard mowed. Yes, I know it looks a little brown. It's not beautiful, but it's okay. There was a lot more green in it than you can tell. It's just that I mowed it yesterday. So now it's back to looking brown again. But that's okay. If we get any rain, when we get any rain, I'll probably have to mow again. Usually once October comes, we're winding down, and towards the end of October we don't have to mow anymore. Well, today's September 30th, it's Saturday. Tomorrow is October. And so ordinarily we'd be kind of winding down anyway, but I'm kind of winding down at the end of September because that's just the way it is. Every alert that I get on my phone says we're in a dry spell, no rain in sight. My alert this morning said the last day of September is going to be a scorcher. So that's that's just the way it is. And I don't know that it's going to change any in the next few weeks. Ergo the watering I'm having to do, which my water bill is going to be so expensive. I mowed here yesterday. This is a little road that runs by our house. But I didn't get over here with my push mower to do the weeds around the culvert. These are some different kind of weeds on this culvert, but still, they're pretty thick. And I'm not going to be able to just weed eat it. I'm going to have to get my mower. I described on a video before that this little gravel road that goes by our house goes back to some property that's way in the back, and people live way back there on a bunch of acreage. And our property line kind of goes through that azalea bush that you see over there. So we don't own all the way to this road, but it kind of feels like a part of our property. You can see how it just goes in with our property, and it almost just looks like this road is the border to our property. So I mow it and I keep it up, and trying to. I've got a lot to do, and that's what I'm fixing to show you, but I'm trying to. And then this little section that goes on the other side of these crepe myrtles over here to that brush pile, those little woods, I mow that as well. I didn't get to that yesterday, but that's my goal today. The reason I didn't get to it yesterday is because I came over and decided to trim these crepe myrtles finally. I talked about them in another video a long time ago, and I talked about how all the little branches of them were just popping me in the head and stuff when I was trying to mow. And I asked the man, I said, do you mind if I trim them, you know, so that when I mow, I'm not getting beat to death? He said, yeah, just treat them like your own, do whatever you want with them. I've figured out a couple of these, like this one here, and the next couple of them. I think they're kind of on their way out if they don't get some fertilizer. They're not doing very good at all. And I cut a lot of dead stuff out of them. And so I have some Job spikes, some tree spikes, and I have some tree food. And I'm going to come over here and kind of fertilize them and mulch it in. And the thing is, though, we need to get rain so some of that can absorb into the ground, and we just haven't had rain. So I got all these trimmed yesterday. I worked my behind off. I used this golf cart, and I loaded branches and branches and branches onto the golf cart and took them over there to my brush pile row. That's why it's a row now, because of all the debris from this. You see how beautiful this one is? I think this is one of those Natchez crepe myrtles, and it's just gorgeous with those rust-colored trunks on them. That one's been here a while because it's got major branches on it. I got this one done. I got this one done. And then you can see that this is where I had to stop. There's 20 of these. There's 20 of these crepe myrtles. Yesterday, after I mowed the front of my property, I came over here and started working on this, and I got 13 done. But I have 7 more to go. Some of them I have already done were the worst. These aren't too bad. That one's not too bad. This one's great. Not a whole lot to do on it. Ooh, this one's fantastic. Hardly nothing on it. You see these branches? That's what gets me when I'm mowing. I'm watching my eyes. I'm having to duck these things. So guess what? These branches are fixing to be gone. They're not going to be my problem anymore. That one's not too bad. Not at all. This one's a little more woolly up here, but it's the last one and it's in complete shade, so it shouldn't be too much trouble. So that's what I'm fixing to do. I'm fixing to get off this golf cart and start cutting and loading and bringing even more to my brush pile. I just really worry about rats and things getting up into that brush pile, but there's nothing really I can do. If we get into any type of rain pattern, and they take away this burn ban because of, 2 or 3 days of rain, I'm getting out there and using some lighter fluid, and I'm getting it burning. And as soon as I start burning it, that'll clear that up. But I have no other choice right now. I have to just kind of pile it up. I mow all of this down here. That part there is not bad because it's got leaves. But I have to mow the rest of this morning. Once I clear those branches, I'm going to start mowing. And then I still have to mow the back part of our property today. You can kind of see where I stopped there. But that's all. These last 7 bushes, I'm hoping I can get that done within an hour, and then another hour and a half or so to mow all this and put the mowers up and everything. So 2.5 hours of work this morning is not too bad. And then it's on to other things. I had to come up to the house to get my little Sacred Mini chainsaw. I went ahead and moved my water hose. I'm just kind of working it around the whole yard, leaving it however long it takes me over there to trim those trees. I'll just leave it on this, and then I'll move it every time I kind of come around. I forgot I got my push mower here because I have to push mow also up in all this area. Just, the little area that I can't really get into with my riding mower. And so I've got to do that as well. So I guess I got another 3 hours or so of work ahead of me. When you say it out loud, it just makes you tired, so I'm not going to talk about that anymore. En route to the burn pile with my first load. Just those little trees that you thought didn't have a whole lot on them, they actually do if you really want to make them look good. You have to cut a lot of stuff out. He's enjoying the water. He just wants to be around the water. I just thought I needed to stop just for a minute and watch this little bird. He's so happy I'm watering the garden. He doesn't know what to do with himself. Let me see what kind it is. My bird app says it's a Carolina chickadee. Ooh. There's a golf cart behind those sticks, I promise you. This is just my first load for today. Ooh, shade. The shade feels good. I can kind of picture people saying, well, if you can't burn right now and you're worried about that brush pile turning into a rat pile, why don't you just wait and cut all this later when you can burn, and then just go straight to the burn pile with it and burn it? Well, that would be extremely smart. Extremely smart. But I'm trying to work while I can work. While I wish it would rain, the fact is it's not raining, and so I can work on days when it's not raining. I just checked the temperature, and it's 89 degrees right now. It's about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. By 3, it's supposed to be 92, which may seem hot to some people. And it's hot, don't get me wrong. I got a glass of water here, and I'm sweating. But for us, when we've been up to 109, and we've had 120 degree heat indexes, today feels like a dreamboat. So I'm just trying to work while I can, while it's kind of, bearable, and I'm cutting because it's likely to get a 2 or 3 day rain event at some point, and then get muddy and maybe be too saturated to burn, and on and on and on. And my next big priority is tilling up my corn patch and getting it ready to plant and all. So if we do get rain and the dirt gets a little moist and I can come out and work on that corn patch, then I'll know this is done. this is done, and when I get my corn patch tilled up and I get my seeds in the ground, I can turn around and spend a couple of whole days, because that's what it's going to take to burn all this, and watch it and be there with a water hose and everything. It's going to take me a couple of days. And so I'm going to go ahead and work on this. I'm going to go ahead and work on this. I'm going to go ahead and get my yard mowed. I'm going to do whatever I can do now so that when that weather does turn a little cooler and when it does start to rain, I can focus more on my winter crops and my gardens. I'm doing the best I can with them right now, with what I can plant right now, but there's a lot more I can do when it starts to really not be in a drought. I need some rain, and once that comes, I've got a lot of work I can do there. So right now, my crosshairs are on that branch and that branch, probably that branch, and they're going to my burn pile. And then the day I can, they're gonna get lit up. I love it. This wisteria sits right out in the middle of my front yard, and it's so hideous looking. It's pretty when it blooms, but it's a vine and it just goes crazy. It does have a big trunk at the bottom, like a tree, but it's pretty much a vine. And I think it actually has some little small trees kind of trying to come up in the bottom of it. So in the next couple of days, me and my little mini chainsaw are going to get busy on this. I want it gone. My tree trimmers were supposed to have trimmed it when they came, and it started lightning and raining that day right before they left, and it just got missed. And so I'm definitely going to get rid of this thing. Sometimes things can be pretty, or you can use the vines to make decorations and on and on and on, but sometimes it's just time for them to go. And I want this gone because it's kind of a monstrosity here right in the middle of my pretty lawn in the front yard. So that's my next project after today. Well, I have now officially trimmed all of my crepe myrtles. I shouldn't have anything slapping me upside the head right now. And not only that, it just looks better. It just looks so much better. I can imagine the people that are driving back down to go to their house down this road. It's got to look better for them too. So pretty. All of them are done. And now I have another little project I want to do. This was a big old tree, a really big tree that the owner of the property had cut. I guess it was in the spring. They did a good job of taking it down because it's right by some electric lines. But now it's a big old stump, which is no big deal. But all of this stuff has decided to grow up around it. Look at all that. And when I mow, I just have to mow around all this stuff. But in the end, even though the yard is mowed and pretty, the stuff's still there. So I think what I'm going to do right now is do another load and just take care of the stuff around this stump. I have a whole lot more trimming I need to do. I'm not saying I'm about finished. I have a whole lot more I need to do, but this right here has really been bothering me because it's so hideous looking. I also, I'm gonna ride you right over here. I also need to do some serious trimming on these azalea bushes. It's okay if they're big, and I like them big, but as you can see, there's other types of trees like this right here. That's a tree. Here's another one popping up right here. Those are other types of trees that are just coming up in the brush underneath the azaleas, and now they've gotten taller than the azaleas. And then down here, I'm gonna have to have my gloves on before I fool with all this. That's some briars that are coming up. This is where my rabbits hang out. The rabbits that hop through my yard sometimes, this is where they hang out. And they can still hang out there, but I'm going to trim some of those trees out of it. I think if I go around here, you'll see what I'm talking about. See these trees popping up in my azaleas right there. It really, when you do start using the little mini chainsaw or whatever you're going to use, it really doesn't take sometimes 30 minutes just to cut all this out. You just go to the base of the little bush, chop it, and drag it out. What takes a little longer are things like this. That's briars. So I have to be really careful, and I'm sure they wind up in there, and I'm sure getting to the base of them is going to creep me out a little bit, but it's got to be done. It's got to be done. And then I would like to come over here and clean this up. This tree is pretty. I think some of the limbs are kind of getting ready to fall out of it too, but it's pretty. But the base of it is just overrun with brush. And coming off the road, you know, that's not very attractive. Just looks like scrub brush. And there's a tallow tree there. So if you let that tallow tree keep going, it's going to get extremely tall and thick. So the best thing to do is to get it as soon as you can. But this stuff's got to go too. My husband's listening to the LSU game, so I got to get out of Dodge, away from the carport. I need to get out of the area of his radio, but I wanted to show you in my little raised bed, my Blue Lake bush beans are already coming up. I think that's what I planted. It's either that or strike, but I think they're Blue Lakes. But they're already coming up. Wonderful. It's evening now. I finished mowing. I got covered with dust. I had to come in and take a shower, but it feels good. I'm gonna ride around there and show you in just a minute what I got done. It ended up getting up to 93 today, not just 92, but got to 93. But we've had a breeze all day, so to me it was a pleasant day. Note to self, trim the crap off of that tree. There's another thing I gotta do. I enjoyed it though. It was a fun day, working outside. Not a lot of interruptions. And I just feel like I got stuff accomplished today. I got hot a little bit. Came and got me a shower. And then got ready and we took just a little bitty drive, not much. Because LSU's on. And when LSU is coming on, you gotta get home. I wanted to show that I got my culvert done on the right side of this little gravel road. And I got it cleared out on the left side. Right up here by the highway, so you'll hear some cars. But boy, that felt good. I don't know what that's about. And then when I was mowing this part that's by the road, it's a pretty good little incline up there to the road. But when I was mowing that, a big brown rat ran out. It was high. Hadn't been mowed in months. It was high. But he ran out and he ran up into all that little garbage right there, into those woods. And good riddance. I also got all the yard mowed up between these crepe myrtles and the woods over there. So all that looks nice and neat now. It just feels so good when you get something done. When you get your mowing done, oh my God, it feels good. Also, got all the brush pulled off of that stump. I kind of wish I could light it on fire around the edges just to get some of that grass and stuff that's around the edges. But I can't do it right now. Got all that mowed. Man, that feels good. Feels good. Don't you just wish that some evenings you can just kind of capture this little capsule of time and just say, dear Lord, can you let it stay this way about 30 more minutes? Because it's just beautiful. I love watching the sun go down and come through these trees by our house. I just absolutely love it. Most every day we have a beautiful sunset view, just about every day, as long as there's sun out. It's hard for you to see on here, but way through there, there's another big pasture that's mowed. And I love looking through these trees at that pasture back there. I just absolutely love it. You know, on my rides that Richard and I go on sometimes, a couple of videos have come out of them. The cinder blocks, make cinder blocks great again. And then the other day I did the one about small structures with big charm. And today we just went on a quick ride. I actually was just hungry. He was kind of wanting to stay here because he was scared to death of missing the kickoff of LSU game. But we rode to a store and I got me a stick of crawfish boudin and a big icy Coke. And I loved it. It was great. It was delicious. But I just asked him, I said, can we just take a little loop and I will get you back home before kickoff. And so we just went literally in a square, but we ended up going down this country road and came up over this hill. And you know, I love the cinder block barns. Well, here was an old one. I didn't have it in my video, but it's this old cinder block barn that had, the roof was gone and the cinder blocks were still there. But when you look through the windows, you could see straight out to the other side. It's like one wall had collapsed, but it was still a cinder block barn, and I love those things. And it must have been feeding time because the cows were up there by it. And it wasn't as evening as this is, but still the fact that it was on a hill and it had trees and it had that cinder block barn and those cows feeding at it with the light coming through those windows, it was gorgeous. And I said, oh my God, I'm going to get a picture of that. I'm going to turn around and go back. That's kind of my life these days. I love doing things like that. And Richard said, no, we're going to miss the kickoff. And it was 10 till 5. LSU kicked off at 5. And so I didn't go back. Then we got out on another highway and we were coming back home. And obviously it was feeding time for another group of cows because somebody had put them out a big round bale of hay in one of those round feeder cages. And they were all standing in a complete circle around it, crammed in, you know, hind quarter to hind quarter, crammed in and eating that hay. So they made this perfect circle that just kind of looked like a little spaceship or something. And I loved it. And I thought to myself, I want a picture of that. I want a picture of that. But we were on a busy highway then, and I couldn't just stop. And even if he had said no big deal or if LSU wasn't coming on, I really couldn't take a picture at that point. Oh, it gets bumpy back there. I'm going to go this way, so I'm going to bump my camera all over the place. So I didn't take the pictures, but I couldn't get it out of my mind. And all the way home, I was thinking about those two missed pictures, kind of missed opportunities. And then I just had this idea about photographing them. My idea is a little more filled out than just that, but that's all I'm going to say right now. But while some people might look at taking rides all the time as using a bunch of gas, I always think if these idiots want to put ESG scores on us, I'm not going to do too good, because Richard and I go on a lot of rides. We go on a lot of rides for no reason whatsoever. It's to get him out of the house. There's reasons we go, but it's nothing important. We're not going anywhere to where we have a destination. We're not necessarily going on errands or anything sometimes. Sometimes we're just riding. But I've always kind of known that it wasn't a waste of time, and it wasn't just a waste of gas. I've always kind of known that it gives me time to think. It gives me time to decompress, because when I'm at home, I'm always thinking about what I need to do next, or what I could be doing outside. Am I wasting time inside? Should I be outside? Or if I'm outside, is something really needing attending to inside? Or my toilet's clean? Do I need to be in there vacuuming? It's back and forth. When you're at home, you know what I'm talking about. When you're at home, you just tend to think, what should I be doing? How could I best use my time? But when I'm writing, my brain just is free, and I can dream and I can think. And today, I kind of just realized that these rides give me an opportunity to photograph and take pictures and do things that I might not ordinarily be able to do. Well, I wouldn't be if I was still in the working world and kind of a slave to all that stuff. But I'm not anymore. And I can do things. And I can be creative. And so I'm going to kind of put that to use. To be continued. Not teasing you. It's just that it's so new, I can't really express right now exactly what's all going through my mind, because it's kind of new. But I kind of have always knew that something was building out of these videos, doing this. I've always told y'all it's given me an opportunity to be creative, because I kind of have to stay that way to cope and to do things that get kind of boring sometimes. The routine gets kind of boring. But I'm okay with that, as long as I can be creative, as long as I have some outlets. And I do, and this has given me the opportunity to do that. But I want to kind of expand on it a little bit and go a different direction. And I think my next video is going to kind of explain it a little better, not necessarily maybe exactly what I'm going to be doing with these photographs or with this opportunity to photograph anything. So my daughter called me this week about some ideas that she's having, some dreams kind of she's having, and wanting to know would I help her a little bit with it. And I think I'm going to call her back later and say, I've got one too. Maybe we could do both things. Maybe we could put our heads together and work on both things. Because we have different talents, she and I, and that's a good thing. I'm kind of a dreamer, the creative, artsy person who, chase the squirrel while you're out here filming a video. You chase the squirrel and you stop and film the Carolina chickadee because it's so pretty. She's the practical one. She's the one that can get on Facebook Marketplace and sell anything. I'm not that person. I kind of get, I don't do Facebook, so that kind of nips that. But these kids these days, they have so many talents. You hear such bad things about young people these days, but that's not true. That's not true. They're good. They're good, and they're smart. And they're capable a lot of times. They're not intimidated by things like I am. I'll just say me. Maybe you're not, but I am. Technology kind of intimidates me sometimes. Trying new platforms, trying new things intimidates me. And they'll just pop right on stuff like that and don't think a thing of it. You can be talking to them about something and you don't even realize they're over there Googling it. They're checking out what you're saying. And in 10 seconds, they've verified it or they've nipped it or and it's like their minds, yes, maybe it's bad that they have their phones all the time and stuff like that, but they've also learned to use those phones, and they've learned to use that technology, and they've learned that they can break free of the systems. I was always caught up in the system. I worked in a job for many, many years I never really cared about, but my only alternative was to go work in another job I never really cared about. The things I thought about doing, I always thought were silly because it was more independent things, and that wasn't going to make you any money, you thought. That's what I would just think. You can't make money doing art. You can't do this. You can't do... And these days, they don't think a thing about it. They're like, oh, I'll do art and I'll sell it online. My niece is doing a little dressmaking business where she's making children's dresses. And she's just like, oh yeah, I started me a website and I do this and I do that. And I make one of each size. And if somebody needs another of the size, I can make it in so many minutes. And she ships them and she sells them and she's doing good. And I'm so proud of her. And the main thing, well, she has work ethic. And yeah, that's the main thing, I guess. You have to work to sew the dresses and do it. But also the main thing is that she just wasn't scared to begin. She just did it. She put her website together and she did it. My daughter's idea she called me about, she's not scared. I'm a little nervous, but she's not scared. But you know what? I'm going to jump in and help her. And we're going to figure it out. And then I'm hoping that she'll jump in and help me, because I could sure use some help getting mine figured out. And who knows? Who knows where we're going to end up? Who knows what could happen? The sky's kind of the limit. The sky's the limit. Well, gotta get off this golf cart at some point. It's time to move the water hose again. This has been a great day. Ticked off everything on my list today. Got me some crawfish boudin, a cold drink, took a drive, and had inspiration that may end up changing my life in some way or another. I'm going to pray about it, and I'm going to think about it, and we're going to see what happens. This is Lainey from Hilltop Home Place. Thanks for journeying with me today on my little golf cart tour. I enjoyed it, and I hope y'all did too. Y'all have a great day. Bye-bye.